So, you are planning to start Honkai Star Rail, or maybe you've already started it. You probably played Genshin before and only heard briefly about Honkai as that other game made by HoYoverse with similar looking characters. And now, look at you. Here you are, playing the next game in the Honkai series, preparing to sell your soul to HoYoverse since you're already playing more than one of their games, so there is no more hope left for you. But don't be sad, because in this black hole of hot anime characters, empty wallets and broken dreams, there are other people just like you. Welcome to Honkai. Please allow me to teach you some basic stuff about the lore of Honkai Star Rail before you're jumping into the game. Honkai Star Rail is the third game, or fourth depending on who you ask, released in the Honkai series. Star Rail serves as an expansion of the Honkai Universe, and unlike the previous titles that focus more on a single setting, this game focuses on a small cast traveling to different worlds and exploring the universe. The Honkai Universe, or as some people like to call it, the Honkaiverse, is a connected space-time structure between the HoYoverse games. For now, the only games confirmed by the developers to be part of it are Honkai Gakuen 2, or GGZ as it was known in the West, Honkai Impact 3rd, Genshin Impact, and Honkai Star Rail. Tears of Themis and Zenless Zone Zero are also most likely part of it, but we don't have any official confirmation yet. You will probably hear many people telling you that these games happen in the same multiverse, but that's false. They happen in a single universe. The confusion comes from Honkai Impact 3rd translating the word world as universe, which later was adopted by many people who spread this term through the community. There is indeed a multiverse, which is also mentioned in-game, but we know very little about anything beyond the Honkai universe. The Honkai Universe is formed by pockets of observable space called worlds. These worlds are connected by a complex space-time structure known as the Imaginary Tree. Characters may refer to it in different ways, some calling it the Tree of Existence, but we assume, for now, that they are the same thing. It's important to note that the imaginary tree, it's not an actual tree. Shocking, right? It's a way of visualizing a complex space-time structure that connects all the worlds of the Honkai universe. From Honkai Impact 3rd, we learn that the imaginary tree is represented by time moving forward, constantly branching and creating parallel worlds. This is also why we see similar looking characters through their games, or even in the same game. They are basically the same character coming from different branches of the tree. Think of it as different versions of yourself that exist in parallel worlds where, I don't know, maybe they do something meaningful with their life instead of playing gacha games. Since the initial conditions between how some of these worlds operate is not the same, the characters can end up drastically different in terms of looks and personality depending on the world. Along with the imaginary tree, there is also the Sea of Quanta, which is a medium of information that underlies reality and exists between the worlds connected by the imaginary tree. If we look at the imaginary tree as a giant tree branching in all directions, the Sea of Quanta is like a puddle of water formed between the branches of the tree. Unlike the imaginary tree, which represents order, the Sea of Quanta represents chaos. The sea is fragmented on a large scale, and basic physical laws change continuously, resulting in the apparition of unstable worlds that we call bubble universes or bubble worlds. Unlike proper worlds from the imaginary tree, the bubble worlds from the sea cannot sustain themselves, and if left unchecked, they will eventually disappear. Very little is known about Aeons. You can think of them as extremely powerful beings that exist beyond the observable dimensions. They tread upon paths imperceptible to mortal beings and do unfathomable things based on the concepts that they represent. Eons are the metaphysical embodiment of a certain philosophical concept. For example, aha, the elation will always see joy as the ultimate meaning in the universe because they represent the concept of joy itself. Although some factions like the Doctors of Chaos, who follow the path of nihility, which in very simple terms is the philosophy that existence is meaningless, helplessly try to prove to their Aeon that existence has meaning. This, of course, creates a paradox because 9 the nihility is the concept of nihilism itself, so all of their efforts are in vain. Similarly, certain Aeons with opposing philosophies can also clash with each other. Some examples would be Nous the erudition and Mitus the enigmata. The erudition seeks to unravel all the mysteries of the universe and know everything that is to be known, while the enigmata tries to erase history and factual data from the universe because it thinks that certainty will only bring disaster. Nobody knows how Aeons are born, but it is known that some of them were people or even lifeless objects at some point. Nous the erudition, for example, was a supercomputer that ascended to Aeonhood. Long the permanence was a dragon, and so on. The first known Aeon was Qliphoth the Preservation. It became an Aeon during the Dusk Wars, an ancient war between Aeons and Leviathans. Leviathans were ancient beasts that scoured the skies and existed even before Aeons. They threatened to devour the whole universe and were pushed to extinction by Aeons. The only surviving Leviathan is Ouroboros the Voracity, who ironically became an Aeon themselves. Qliphoth the Preservation was the first to rise against the Leviathans by building a barrier across the living worlds to preserve and protect them from their threat. It is said that even today, the Aeon of Preservation is preparing for the day when the arch-nemesis, which most likely refers to Ouroboros, will return. Once an Aeon is born, they create a path. It is said that if anyone is found treading on the path of an Aeon, they will be inundated by a distant sensation, like being struck by a glance from light years across the galaxy. Many believe that's the only connection that mortals and Aeons can have. Basically, paths are the marks of an Aeon. It's their philosophy existing as a congregation of imaginary energy that people can tread on. The people that tread upon the path of an Aeon are called path striders. They can access this path by sharing a similar philosophy with the respective Aeon. For example, someone who is out for revenge is most likely to resonate with the path of the hunt. Someone who is exploring unknown worlds could attune to the path of the trailblaze. Paths can offer mortals unimaginable powers and abilities. It's important to note that just because someone shares a path with an Aeon, that doesn't mean that they have a direct relationship with that Aeon. For the most part, Aeons don't really think about mortals. There are exceptions, of course, like Akivili the Trailblaze, who was known for the fact that they enjoyed spending times with mortals. However, there are cases when humans can receive powers directly from Aeons. Those people are called emanators, and they are extremely powerful path striders. Some known examples are the Lord Ravager, who is an emanator of destruction, and it is said that they can destroy entire galaxies. Herta, who is an emanator of Nous, or the history fictionologists, who are literally a faction composed of emanators of Enigmata that love to infiltrate different worlds and destroy their history. Just like Aeons, emanators seem to come in different shapes and forms, and they all seem to have different powers depending on the Aeon they serve. In many cases, groups of beings with the same belief as an Aeon begin to form and create the so-called factions. But regardless of the size of a faction, most of the Aeons have no interest in them. Some, however, find it amusing to watch these ants in their fervent labor. They may provide some careful guidance, or even create mysticism to alter the progress of the faction. This creates some interesting interactions between Aeons and factions. The Morning Actors, for example, are firm believers against the elation. They are preaching a philosophy where joy is just just a cheap narcotic that brings stagnation, hoping to dilute the path of aha, the Aeon of elation. However, out of fondness for dark humor, aha blessed these people with its power, playfully helping them spread their philosophy through the galaxy. Some of the most important factions that you should know about are the Astral Express, the Stellaron Hunters, which is an organization shrouded in mystery that, as the name suggests, hunts Stellarons. Their leader is a man who is said to be able to see the future called Elio. It is not known if the Stellaron Hunters have any affiliation with an Aeon. And lastly, the Antimatter Legion. They are a coalition of different races serving the Aeon of Destruction. They go across the universe, bringing death and destruction to unsuspecting civilizations. Oh, and before I forget, my favorite faction, which are my subscribers! If you also want to become part of it and follow the Aeon of Honkai lore together with me, please don't hesitate to subscribe and leave a thumbs up on this video. I promise you that you'll never find a cooler faction. Joking aside, since this video will probably attract a lot of new viewers, I wanted to take 2 seconds to introduce myself. Hello, I'm HoMoLabs and I cover the lore of the Honkai series on this channel. My main focus is Honkai Impact 3rd, but now with the release of Star Rail, I'm planning to cover the lore of both games. The Astral Express is a train capable of traveling through the stars created by Akivili, the Aeon of Trailblaze. Together with the Express, Akivili traveled to many worlds and laid down the Star Rail in the hopes of establishing a connection between the worlds and the Tree of Existence. After the fall of Akivili, their trailblazing wheel was inherited by their followers called the Nameless. The Nameless continued to ride the Express, however, as the cancer of all worlds continued to spread, the Star Rail also fell victim to its influence. The Express could barely run as the blight expanded and had no choice but to stop when the rails became overly obstructed. After many years, the Express fell into Himeko's world. The young girl found it, and after repairing it, she began her journey across the stars. The purpose of the Express right now is to travel on the same path that Akivili did in the past and establish relationships with all the worlds on the Star Rail. Alongside Himeko, other members boarded the space train. Tiang, a former hero who fought against the Honkai in his home world and saved his planet from annihilation countless times. Welt comes from the world of Honkai Impact 3rd and has a tragic and rich backstory. If you haven't played Honkai Impact 3rd, which you should, it's a great game, and you want to know more about him, I already made a video going over his entire story. You can check it out after you're done with this one. March 7th is a lively girl whose past is shrouded in mystery. She was found inside a block of 6-faced eyes floating through space. After she was freed, she was left with no memories. Now, she travels together with the Express, hoping to learn more about her past. On the other hand, we have Dan Heng, who is a cold and reserved young man. It is said that he is running away from someone and that his past is slowly catching up with him. And of course, lastly, Pum Pum, the conductor of the Astral Express. Not many things are known about Pum Pum, besides the fact that it was always with the Express. On its journey through the galaxy, the Astral Express had numerous encounters with Stellarons. Stellarons are known as the cancer of all worlds, and they are sown across the universe by Nanook, the Aeon of Destruction. They are seeds of disaster that cause massive changes in civilizations and ecosystems. They can also cause distortions in space known as fragmentums. These fragmentums slowly start enfolding the space of the planet they inhabit, creating powerful monsters. Stellarons are said to respond to the desires of the worlds they inhabit, but usually, the price those worlds need to pay to fulfill their desires ends up in a great disaster. Stellarons have been observed to even have the ability to communicate with certain people. They are extremely dangerous and can be kept only in special conditions. At the beginning of the game, 2 Stellaron hunters, Kafka and Silverwolf, infiltrate the Herta space station, a museum-like starship, in search of a Stellaron. After they got their hands on it, the Stellaron was implanted in the body of a receptacle built to handle its powers. That receptacle is also the player's avatar. After joining the Astral Express, the player embarks on a new journey, hoping to learn more about themselves and the Stellaron that they house in their body. Through their journey, they visit multiple worlds following the Star Rail set in place by Akivili, such as Yarilo 6, a planet that suffered a great calamity that engulfed it in snow 700 years ago, known as the Eternal Freeze, and Shenzhou Luofu, one of the 6 flagships of the Shenzhou Alliance. The Luofu is home to many long-lived species, such as the natives, who are people blessed by Yaoshi the Abundance with immortality, the Foxians, which are furry bait, people with fox-like futures, and the Vidyahara, who are dragon humanoids. And that's it! Now you are ready to start your trailblazing journey and have a basic idea of what's happening. Don't forget that Star Rail is a game full of lore, so keep your eyes sharp. You'll find lore bits everywhere, and by that I mean literally everywhere, even in the trash bins. No, I'm serious. Check the trash bins!